Welcome back to the Rowdy Studio. I am Buzz Cutler. Bassmasters is on the end, and Bob Pockers is right where he should be, smack dab in the middle.
With all the answers.
With all the answers. Now, Bob, you were at the NASCAR R&D Center Stakeout 2012 yesterday, were you not?
Part two.
Part the second.
Yes.
Did anybody bring you food this time?
Yeah, NASCAR brought food, actually. They kind of were like, well, take care of that. Just please stay in this part of the parking lot until we're ready.
Don't get hit.
Talk.
Bob, how surprised were you at the fact that the penalty was basically almost in its entirety overturned? I was too.
I was shocked. I thought it'd be maybe a two-race
reduction
in the suspension,
and keep
I thought
the points.
The points penalty would hold. And so totally surprised that Middlebrook decided to get rid of all the suspension and get rid of all the point penalty.
He's almost saying this wasn't a legitimate penalty in his eyes. I mean, he hasn't made a statement, so we really don't know the reasons why he overturned
he kept the $100,000 fine, so that would suggest to me anyway that he saw something there, just not as much as
Have you ever heard
NASCAR.
of a fig leaf?
Well,
that's what that is.
I mean, look, it is obvious that either he didn't think the violation was as egregious as NASCAR officials, or he felt that that Hendrick wasn't getting a fair shake, right?
And
I think and Hendrick had said, you know, hey, everybody else got to shave on their cars, including 3 cars that got to fix their seat posts. Why didn't I get that chance?
Not only that, they've said, or at least Rick Hendrick has said, this car ran and was approved 4 times last year.
And went through tech after they won at Talladega.
Exactly.
And went through the R&D Center last January, and that they were told that the seat post is an area they can work on. And so, you know, they felt that they felt they were within the rule book. And
that they had an understanding with NASCAR, I think. That, to me, was where Chad's disappointment came at. You know, he said he was disappointed. He wasn't angry. He was disappointed because to me anyway, he felt that he had an understanding with NASCAR and he understood where the boundaries were and he'd worked through them last year. So he was disappointed to find this coming down on him.
And I thought I had an understanding with NASCAR that when they take a piece from a car and they issue a 6-week suspension, that they're pretty darn sure of what they're doing.
And so how has that understanding changed?
It has changed now, because, I mean, how in the world did they screw this one up?
But doesn't this suggest the fact that they weren't allowed to grind on the car and the fact that they didn't take the piece and they didn't have the certainty, doesn't this suggest that NASCAR's assertion that Chad Knaus's reputation or past behavior doesn't come into play is somewhat disingenuous?
Well, that's one of the options. It's either that or they totally messed up. or maybe some officials said they did something but maybe they really did, or maybe there's some communication breakdown on what was done. I mean, that day that the seat posts were taken, we were told that they used gauges on the car,
right,
and that they determined that they could not be fixed by grinding on them. You know, and so without an explanation from Middlebrook that says this is why.
Was it a process violation or something else?
Was it because Hendrick got a raw deal, or was it because that this part wasn't as illegal or as important as NASCAR?
Was there an overzealous inspector? Do you think the ad-track inspection process is flawed and needs to be retooled as a result of this?
I think they need to look at it. I think they need to look and say, how come this was overturned? And what can be done to avoid that from happening again? You gotta imagine they're gonna put the templates on the car. You gotta imagine they're gonna look at a different way to figure out if they need to take a seat post or whether let a team work.
Because the seat post is between the templates. The templates don't measure the seat post.
And the violations that were talked about didn't
nothing to do with the template.
Talk about the templates. Talked about the contour of the car.
A template violation is easy. That's not complicated.
The template does not fit.
That doesn't fit, you must not acquit.
Correct.
So that's easy. The question is between the template. That is a gray area, and that is a matter of understanding between NASCAR and the teams of how much leeway do I have to work between where the template touches the race car. And so I don't, you know, that's something that has to be worked through in a funny way, though. And I know you've said in your column that this probably hurts NASCAR's credibility a little bit. Does it also not say there is a fair process? There's a process, and there are human beings that implement this process, and if there was a mistake made, that there is a process to rectify that error. In a funny way, that to me helps their credibility as a fan to say, hey, there is a process in place that if a mistake is made, like an appeals court, it can be overturned.
The problem is we don't know what the mistake was.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to come out and say that this helps NASCAR. I don't think it helps. To me, I don't know, because I'm somebody who said that Hendrick got what they deserved 3 weeks ago. And so now do you put a plate of crow in front of me and do I start eating?
Pretty much.
But here's the thing. I don't know. I know as much now as I did 3 weeks ago. I don't know why they took the part. I don't know whether it was because of the materials used, its shape. I don't know.
Right.
And in the past, I had trust that when NASCAR goes to the point that they take a piece,
and they fine you and they take points away and they sit you for 6 weeks, there's a damn good reason.
Right, that they have pretty good reason and basis for it. And now I don't know.
See, it's interesting you say that, because really we've only gotten one side of the story right now, which is Hendrick's, because Rick Hendrick said, here's my argument. We don't have that same information from NASCAR, and we don't have any information from Middlebrook. So you've got 3 different parts of this decision coming together, yet we only have one of them to go by.
And the decision.
Right, but we don't know the reasoning behind the decision. We don't know NASCAR's argument. We don't know the reasoning behind the decision. It would be nice if NASCAR released some of that information.
Well, that's a story for another day.
All right. Well, for Bassmasters and Bob, who are you?
I'm Bob Pockers.
I almost called you Bob Costas.
I thought you were going to call him Bob Cutler.
That's what I thought.
Oh, maybe that was it. I don't know what I was going to say. That's Bob Pockers. I'm Buzz Cutler, and that's Bob Costas on the end.
What?
Huh?
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is.
Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.